Hello, welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. More often than not, you'll find me hanging out over on Instagram. Welcome to the video today. I mostly spend my time here on this little corner of YouTube chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet, all of the fibre related things. And today I thought I would start a new vlog to pop up on the channel at some point. For the last couple of months I have been threatening that sounds a little bit ominous, doesn't it? I have been promising, it's probably a better way to put it, to make some adjustments and repairs to a couple of my finished sweater projects that need a few tweaks. This was on my to-do list for March and I didn't quite get to it, so I put it on my to-do list for April, and the month of April is fast disappearing, so I figure I need to actually dedicate some time to do this, otherwise it's going to slip again for another month. I'm not intentionally putting off these sort of adjustments and amendments. I think it comes back to the same reason that I like to have a lot of projects already on the needles, the hooks, the spindles, my spinning wheels. I always find that the biggest hurdle to get going on a project is the starting and the gathering up of the things that you need. And that's one of the reasons that I do my 12 cast-ons towards the end of the year and over the beginning of every new year, is to make sure that I've got a bunch of things on the needles that are easily grabbable and I can just pick them up and work on them, and I don't have to expend any sort of brain power or energy and effort in gathering up sort of tools and supplies. So yes, I think one of the reasons why this kind of mending endeavour of mine has been a bit slow to get off the ground is I haven't taken the time to sort of gather things up and put them in the bag and get ready. So I have decided that this coming weekend, it's Friday today as I'm recording, I'm going to set this weekend aside to do as much as I can on the mending projects that I have. The first one is the sweater that I'm currently wearing today, and if you watched my March making plans video, you'll have already seen what needs doing, but I thought I would quickly recap. So somewhere on one of these shoulder seams, yeah, there it is, I've got a little bit of a split in the seaming. If I put my finger in underneath, you can see, woohoo, hello, hello. So I need to figure out what's going on there. I think it's probably just the seam has split and I just need to re-sew that. And also on the cuffs of this sweater, the yarn has sort of split and worn and unravelled. I've got this stitch that's in danger of, if I don't catch it soon, unravelling all the way up the jumper. And on the other sleeve, I've got not quite so bad, but the yarn is starting to sort of tear and wear. I knit this sweater, I think about 3 years ago. It's had a lot of wear ever since. It's one of my favourites. So I want to preserve this for another 3 years at least. So I need to get cracking and sort out getting this fixed. And by the magic of YouTube, let's move to project number 2. Ta-da! Nothing wrong with this in terms of repairs or anything that need to be done, but ever since I knit this sweater I have been wishing that I had added an extra inch or two to the length of this sweater, because every time I wear it I feel like anytime I'm sort of moving around I'm constantly then pulling on the sweater to pull it back down a bit. So let me just stand up and show you what the sweater looks like on me in terms of length right now. Okay, so this is the length of the sweater as it stands, which if I'm just standing around not doing anything is absolutely fine. It comes just below, there's the sort of waistband of my jeans, it comes just below that length. But as soon as I start doing anything practical, it starts moving and shifting, and I feel like I'm constantly giving it a good tug down. Now, of course, even with a longer sweater, it's going to move and shift, but it's not going to sort of shift halfway up my body. And I think that I will wear it more often if I don't feel like I'm constantly doing this and fiddling with it. So I'd like to add, I think, an extra 2 inches to the length of this sweater. So both should be fairly straightforward repairs and adjustments, and I hope to potentially get them both done over the weekend. Okay, so I put my sweater just over to the counter here so that I can lay it out and chat a little bit more. I have got plenty of leftover yarn to play with. So from the original sweater quantity that I purchased, I still have a full skein and also some of the yarn wound up from the last ball that I used. So in terms of options for changing this sweater, I think there are 3 different options really. I could rip out the cast off and extend the ribbing by a couple of inches. The second option is to rip the sweater back to the stockingette portion and then add my extra couple of inches. The third option, I think, will probably be maybe a bit too much of a faff. I could pick up the stitches in the sweater around here, cut off the ribbing, add my couple of inches and then graft the 2 bits together. But honestly, I think the thought of all of that grafting for all of these stitches, I may as well just sit and do the 1x1 rib, although it's my least favourite type of ribbing to do. Now, in terms of keeping the sweater sort of proportionate, the top of the sweater does have a bit of a rib, but not in the same way as the bottom of the sweater. As you can see, it's got a folded neck, so I don't really have to worry about ribbing proportions if I was going to add the 2 inches of ribbing at the bottom here. It does, however, have the same ribbing on the sleeves, and the length of the ribbing does match the bottom. So my sweater may look slightly disproportionate if I added the 2 inches of ribbing and didn't match that to the sleeves. But that, I think, is just a matter of personal preference and taste. I don't think it would make a huge difference to most people to have a longer ribbing at the bottom than on the sleeve, but I guess it's just something to think about and how that might change how the sweater looks when it's on. So having considered all of those options, I think I'm going to go for the one that keeps the sweater in proportion. So I am going to rip out this ribbing, knit my inches of stockingette, and then add the ribbing back on. It's Saturday morning. I've done a few jobs around the house, but I feel justified now in sitting and working on a project for an hour or so maybe. So I'm ready to go with my Durumi sweater. I feel like I may have been calling it Midori, but it's Durumi. I'm not sure. I'll figure that out when I'm editing. Don't know why Midori's got into my head, but yes, it's Durumi. I gathered all the bits that I need for that yesterday, so I'm ready to go with that. Just need to try and find the seam to unravel. However, I feel like by designating this particular weekend as my weekend of repairs and adjustments, I may have cursed all of the rest of my knitwear. When I went to get dressed this morning, I picked up my Radiate sweater, went to put it on, and my finger or my thumb went through the sleeve. So I have no idea what happened there, whether there was a loose stitch, maybe I'd caught a thread, or whether it got caught on something and created a weak point. I have no idea. It's not where a join is or anything like that. There is a join in the sleeve nearby, but it's not that there's a weak join where I've sort of spliced in some yarn or anything, so who knows. But there's a stitch in danger of running away down to the cuff, and when I poke it inside out you can see there's a couple of ends here hanging out, so yeah, who knows. But I have got a little scrap of yarn. I tend to keep, if I remember, which I most often do, I tend to keep little bits of spare yarn for my projects around so that I know that I can fix and repair over time. Yes, that's going to be hopefully a really quick fix. I'm not even going to do a sort of like traditional darn or anything. I'm just going to pick this stitch that's run a little bit back up as far as I can, and then I'm going to kind of oversew from the back and secure in ends. And then I grabbed a pair of socks to put on straight off of the sort of washing error in the bathroom. They've been washed a couple of days ago. My Pebbles and Pathway socks, which is a beautiful pattern by Marceline Smith, who you may know as Hey Brown Berry, and if you don't watch Mars then you really should. She has an amazing YouTube channel and she's so kind. But I picked these up and spotted a hole. So again, there's kind of a stitch in danger of running, so again, who knows. These do go in the washing machine. They're knit from a commercial yarn, so I'm never that careful with my socks from commercial yarn. I think this bottom was Wendy Rome and the main colour is a drops yarn, I think. Can't remember. So yes, again, should be a simple repair. I'm not going to darn as such. I'm just going to pick that stitch back up, catch it in. I don't have any of the yarn left. I couldn't find any, at least, of this, but I do have this kind of grey yarn in my leftover stash, so I'm just going to do a quick little repair on the inside of this sock too. So yeah, I guess I'm getting on with those repairs before I start my Darumi. So both those small repairs are done. That took less than half an hour, so that was good. The sock repair is pretty invisible, but that was very minor. I caught that one very early. The jumper repair's a little bit more visible, but I think I've done enough to secure that in and make sure that the jumper is wearable. And as I say, I'm not the most experienced when it comes to making repairs, so I'm kind of... I do know how to darn because I have darned socks before, but only once. That repair on the sleeve was just me kind of mending intuitively what I felt seemed like it might be the best. So I'm sure the more mending that I do over the years to come to keep my garments wearable for the longest time possible, I'll get more practiced and a little bit better at that. But yeah, I'm pleased it's wearable again, and that is the main thing. I'm going to crack on with the Darumi now. I'm going to see if I can figure out where the end is. The join, I think it's there. There's like a, don't know if you can see that, there's a slight dip in the stitch. So I'll see if I can, yeah, it's definitely stretching and pulling a bit as I tug on that one, look. So I'll see if I can unravel the end and get going on the unwinding of this. unravelling is done, so I've got all my live stitches hanging out here. So I'm just going to pick up now, and then I'll pop a progress keeper or a lockable stitch marker into where I've picked up, because I want to add an extra 2 inches and then redo the ribbing. I've relocated to the garden because the sun is shining and I'm taking every minute to grab a bit of sunshine that I can at the moment. I'm happily sat here with my eyes closed knitting away, but I'm going to take pause on this project. As always, these things that I think I'm just going to pick up and get done and they'll be off the to-do list turn out to be a little bit less straightforward than that. So I've been knitting away for a while, and I've just looked down and my tension is quite a bit different in the stocking stitch than it was in the original garment knit, which is unsurprising. I knit this quite some time ago. I'm knitting currently on a 4mm needle, but the difference is quite significant. I'll show you a shot in a minute. Taking a couple of minutes to figure out what I'm going to do. I've got a couple of ideas rumbling around in the back of my head. I think the first one, as I've done a few rows of knitting, I've knit about an inch, I suppose, maybe slightly more. I think I'm maybe going to take the needles off and block this and see how different it looks once it's blocked. If that doesn't even things out a little bit, then I think I'm going to rip back what I've knit today, and then the decision will be, do I go down a needle size and add the extra stocking stitch section, or rather than faff around trying to match my previous tension, do I just go back to the original options that I had and knit just a longer length of ribbing, because if there's a slight change in tension in the ribbing, it's not going to show quite so much. So yeah, let me turn you around and show you what I'm looking at. Okay, so here is the part of the sweater that I've knit, and if I put the camera up, I think you can see quite clearly. Here is where I picked up. My stitches here are quite a bit tighter than my ones that I've just knit. And there's an obvious kind of pick up line, which I was kind of expecting no matter what, and was thinking it would block out, so I wasn't really paying too much attention when I knit the first couple of rows. But holding my camera down, I think you can see these stitches up here are quite a bit looser than these. So, confession time. Of course, I did not stick to my grand plan of dedicating a whole weekend to mending. Of course I didn't, because things just always take me longer than I think they will. I'm not sure if that's me overestimating the amount of time I have, how quickly I can do things, or whether I'm just slowing down now that I'm in my dotage. Maybe a combination of all of the above. Anyway, a few days have passed. I feel like I say this often on these vlogs, and I have not done any more than what you saw in the previous clips. The last clip I think you would have seen was me deciding to soak the bottom of my Durumi sweater to see what that would do with those tension issues. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But would you believe it? You watched me fix that hole in my Pebbles and Pathway socks, and I wore those socks. Brilliant. Yay, thought I'd conquered them. And then blow me if I didn't take them off and get I was ready to put them in the wash, and I noticed there's another blinking stitch running away in the cable. Cursed myself, I tell you. No, I'm going to retrieve that and fix it because I love these socks. And if that doesn't work, I might just knit myself another pair, start again. Make sure I go around the room muttering spells to dispel all curses before I cast on. Right, I'm going to retrieve that sock and then I'll be back. Otherwise I'll forget it's there. Yeah. Okay, Darumi. So yeah, I decided the path of least resistance was just to quickly soak the bottom of the sweater and see what that did, if anything, to improve how the sweater was looking with the different tension issues. So it has been soaked and it's now dried for a couple of days. And while I think to a knitter's eye, you can definitely see the difference in tension still. However, I don't think the average person is going to notice that. The sort of obvious line where I'd picked up the stitches before has blocked out nicely, and I think that was adding to the effect of sort of highlighting the difference in tension. But just giving it that little bit of soak has kind of evened out where I've picked up the stitches. I think in some places you can still sort of see a little bit of a ridge, but I think over time that will disappear. And also I have to bear in mind that obviously the top half of this sweater, the yarn has been worn. You might be able to see on the camera this yarn is quite pilly, and this is sort of brand new off the skein yarn. So that is also going to contribute to things looking, you know, a little bit different. But I think I'm happy enough with what's happened in the blocking to just now carry on and knit another inch or two of stockingette and then put the ribbing in rather than have to rip back. And then, yeah, I'll just live with whatever it looks like. But as I say, I'm sure over time, even if it looks a little bit odd to start with, I'm pretty sure with a bit of wear, most people are not going to notice the difference. Darumi is done. Hopefully you'd have just seen a little shot of me wearing it. I was hoping to record outside in the garden, and literally as soon as I took all of my stuff out there, someone started using a chainsaw somewhere, so it's so noisy. Anyway, I did leave the marker in the bottom of the sweater. I just wanted to show you how much extra I added. So this was the point that I ripped back to, so the original sweater would have come to about where the ribbing starts. And I'm much happier with this length now. When I move my arms around, it doesn't kind of pull halfway up my body, so I am pretty pleased with the adjustment that I've made to this, and I think I'm going to wear this a lot more often now, which was the main aim of this exercise. So yeah, time to crack on with the darn. Today's to-do list is to first repair that second hole in my Pebbles and Pathway socks, and then figure out my approach to repairing the darn. Really bright and sunny here today. I've done a super quick repair on my sock, very similar to the other hole that I repaired, in that I just picked up the stitch and then sewed like secured a bit of scrap yarn in the back, and then caught that stitch in. So the yarn that I'm using to repair is a little bit lighter than the yarn that I used to knit the sock with. So you can see a couple of stitches there, but I think overall you wouldn't really notice that on the sock if you're that close to my sock to notice the repair. Then we're probably having a whole different kind of experience. That little distraction out of the way, hopefully Pebbles and Pathways are finally sorted. I feel like I need to go over these with a microscope just to make sure there's no other surprises. I'm going to crack on with the Dern sweater. It's a little bit difficult for me to record at the moment because the sun's so bright, but I know the first thing I need to sort out is a hole that I've got on the seam. So I think I've got a little bit of a sort of tail sticking up here, so I reckon I've joined in some yarn, and it's just over wear and tear of the last 3 years, it's just started to unravel. So I think that should be a fairly quick fix, and then I can figure out the mess that is the cuffs. Look at the state of that. Oh dear. Seam in the shoulder is fixed. I didn't even bother to record me doing anything with that. Basically, it was nothing more nefarious than an end of yarn that I used to sew the seam had just worked its way out over time, or got caught and got pulled out. I just did a really simple back stitch seam on this. So yeah, I just pulled through the end that was poking out. I use quite a lot when I'm doing these sorts of things, not that I say I do them very often, but I have this really tiny 1.5mm crochet hook, which has got the tiniest of tips on. That's probably not going to ever focus on my camera, but it's really good for just grabbing ends or stitches and working them up when you're doing repairs. Particularly on socks, or this is a 4-ply jumper, so on the finer weight yarns this is perfect. Now for sorting out the cuffs. So yeah, I've got this one cuff here where the stitch has unravelled all the way down the cuff and is about to work its way down the sleeves. So this is the kind of most urgent repair, and I think I'm just going to re-knit the whole cuff. So I'm going to see, I've got my join here, I'm going to see if I can unpick the join, because these were, this project was knit flat, so I'm going to hope to try and unpick my seaming and unravel back to the back to where the cuff starts and just re-knit the cuff. So and I think I'll do that on the other side as well, even though, where's the other sleeve? Even though this one is not anywhere near as bad, it's just started to fray at the edge. I think I will take the time to re-knit both of these because this seems to be where this sweater is wearing the most. So stitches are back on the needles, not the right size needle, but it's on a needle. That was a bit more of a faff than I had hoped it would be. Of course it was. We have already established in this vlog that my knitting does not like me right now. What I forgot to take into account was that this sleeve was knit bottom up. So where I snipped the cast on edge and tried to unravel, I wasn't unraveling in the right direction, if that makes sense, because I'm not unraveling from the top. I was trying to kind of unpick from the bottom. So what I ended up doing was cutting off the cuff and just picking up the stitches and unpicking the yarn. So yeah, a bit more involved than just unraveling, but that's fine. We've got there in the end. I've undone some of my side seam. I think I'm going to undo a little bit more of that so that I've got the top of my knitting is flat so that I can re-knit the cuff. But to make it comfortable to do that, I'm going to need to unpick the seam a little bit. So I'm going to get on and do that, and once that's done, I think I'm going to take this out into the garden and re-knit my cuff. That was really quick. Once I got going, it was only about half an hour's worth of knitting time. So I need to turn this inside out and rejoin the seam, and then time to tackle cuff number 2. My sweater lives to fight another day. I have brand new cuffs. The second cuff was a lot quicker to get back on the needles than the first, after I realised my, not error, but my incorrect approach to the first one, because I was trying to unravel something that didn't want to be unravelled. So yeah, second one was much easier to pick up, and as I said, the knitting or the re-knitting of the cuffs only took half an hour each. So yeah, it's something like the 20th of April, and so I think I'm going to wrap this vlog up. I do have one other project that needs fixing, a sweater of James's, but I still have quite a few other things on my April to-do list that I haven't started yet. I've got the dude, which technically is another alteration, I guess. I've got a hat to knit and some socks to work on. So yeah, I think I have fulfilled the the urge to get some mending and adjusting done, and I'm happy with what I've managed to achieve. So yes, thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below if you have any projects that you have previously finished and are planning to adjust or need mending, whether you have any preferred mending techniques. I'd love to know. I'd love to chat to you about that. So yeah, let's chat below. I'm going to sign off for this video, but as always, you can't keep me away for long. I'll be back again soon with some more content here on the channel, so I hope you will join me for the next video. But until we get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.